Hello everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Mathieu Billecart and I'm the CEO of BillecartSalmon, the 7th generation of the family. We are a medium-sized maison de champagne, house of champagne. We are family owned and family run, which is now becoming very, very rare, unfortunately. And we were founded in 1818. So we are 202 years old, not me, but the business. We thought, as everybody or most people are unfortunately in lockdown and we're going through a pretty tough time, we thought we'd give you a bit of light entertainment. It doesn't change the world, but it might make your evening that little bit more fun, or your morning that little bit more fun. We are based in Mareuil-sur-Ailly. Mareuil-sur-Ailly is a little village not far from Épernay, and other than the fact it's very small, it is very well located to get access to the very best Premier and Grand Cru of Champagne. BillecartSalmon sources 90% of its grape from 20-kilometer radius around our village because it is in the middle of three very important hotspots for us. The first one is Vallée de Marne for the Pinot Meunier. The second one is the Montagne de Reims, so we are in my house right now, but that's physically in Montagne de Reims for the Pinot Noir. It's just across Côte des Blancs for where the very best Chardonnay are. At BillecartSalmon we have 11 cuvées, which is an awful lot, but today we're presenting you the one that is possibly the most well known, which is our Brut Rosé. So at BillecartSalmon we've been making rosé since at least 1840. The reason why I know that is we have a letter from a client then telling us that he loved our cuvée Œil de Perdrix and he would like to order some more. However, the cuvée of the 19th century and 20th century is quite different to the cuvée we're tasting today. At the very beginning, the cuvée was a maceration rosé, so rosé de saignée. This is actually a blend rosé. And this approach to rosé was created by my great uncle, Mr. Jean, who in the 1960s, when rosé was not as popular as it is today, decided to reshape the rosé and try to make the very best rosé wine that can be done. And instead of going for structure and strength, wanted to go for finesse and elegance and be aligned with what Billecart was known for, which is elegance. A second common question is about the temperature of service. You know, is it too warm, is it too cold? Look, candidly again, that's a matter of personal taste, but you have to know if your champagne is very, very cold, you might not be perceiving all the nuances in the quality of the wine. Now, that may not be what you're after. But for a cuvée like this that's known for its freshness and fruitiness, if the wine is at 4 degrees or 3 degrees, it's going to be quite tough to perceive. If you want, in my mind, have the better tasting experience, to keep it simple, aim for 10 degrees. So a fridge is about 4 or 5. If you remove that bottle from the fridge, 15 minutes before, serve it in reasonably broad glasses, it will go higher in temperature and you will easily get to 10 degrees. If you want it at 8, there's no problem there. Some people prefer it at 12, but that's absolutely fine. But I would say fresh instead of very cold is possibly the best tip I can give you. Now let's go through some of the more sort of technical element of this. So I mentioned at the beginning you have two ways of making rosé. There is a maceration rosé, otherwise known as rosé de saignée. Maceration rosé is when you, after the harvest, or having just cut the fruit of the vine, the grape out of the vine, you wait for the color of the skin from black grapes to color the pulp, and after that you press, and from that you're largely going to end up with a stronger colored rosé. At BillecartSalmon, and that's part of the revamp that Mr. Jean did, Uncle Jean did in the 60s and 70s, is that he moved to a blend rosé. And what that means is you make your own blend, sort of white wine type champagne, as you would do with the vast majority of all the cuvées, and we make our own red wine separately. And at BillecartSalmon, and the quality of the red wine, is the absolute key from moving from a goodish rosé to an exceptional rosé, which is what we try and do. And at Billecart, we make our red wine only from Pinot Noir. Comes from Montagne de Reims, which is where we are here, and we use old vines. And by old vines, I mean vines that are between sort of 50 and 80 years old. And the vinification method that we use is to try and keep the freshness and no tannins, that's one of the characteristics we will come back to in a minute, which is freshness and purity is what we seek. In terms of the grape blend and the grape mix, this has a higher percentage of Chardonnay that you would typically get in your Brut Rosé at BillecartSalmon. This is 40% Chardonnay, 30% Pinot Noir, of which some of that is in red wine, and 30% Meunier. The vinification method is done 100% in stainless steel tank. You'll know that at Billecart we also work with wood and oak barrels, but for the Brut Rosé we use only stainless steel tank. And that's for control reasons, but also for us to be able to keep the purity in the wine and the freshness. We don't want the oxidation and the strength that an oak barrel would give us. Certainly not in that cuvée. We want it in others, but not that one. Like all the Billecart cuvées, we do our alcoholic fermentation at cold temperature. Cold temperature meaning around 13 degrees Celsius. Why 13 degrees Celsius? Is because it's a physical limit at which yeast can transform sugar into alcohol. We don't do it just because it sounds fancy and is cold. We do it because that enables us to get a level of finesse and elegance in the wine that you wouldn't be getting in a quicker process. That's the key, and that's something you'll find in all the cuvées at BillecartSalmon, cold fermentation. Every single tank is thermoregulated and every single tank is vinified individually. That's a precision, and that's what we work on. And for the technician amongst you, the majority of that cuvée will have a malolactic fermentation made against for it to make it more mellow and easier to access. In terms of aging in the bottle, we are looking at about 3 years. 3 years is double the minimum requirement typically you get for non-vintage champagnes. We don't age it for too much longer than this, because after that you're likely to start losing the fruit, which is what we seek here. Let's move to the tasting. Tasting starts with the eye. Color-wise, but you can see this is a very pale rosé. And whilst it is called rosé, it's not pink, or certainly it's not strong pink. It's pale pink. It's a color that we describe as œil de perdrix. Œil de perdrix is something that's sort of in between pinkish and more orange. The nose of that cuvée is a blend of little red fruits, raspberries or wild strawberries, the very small ones, the tiny ones. A mix of these little red fruits and citrus. Citrus, mandarine, lemon, pomelo, that kind of citrus. And that's a guarantee of the freshness. And in the taste, the first thing you notice is the very, very fine bubbles. And that's something you see across all our cuvées, but that's something that makes sure the bubble is not sort of aggressive. You don't get a lot of gas coming out of your mouth through this. It's very fine. It caresses your palate. That's what we seek to have, and that's certainly there in the Brut Rosé. The second characteristic I would say is freshness and purity. You get that sentiment when you finished tasting this wine. It's all very fresh. You get the length of the wine. This is a serious wine. Whilst we want it to be approachable, fruity, and all of that, it is a serious wine. It is very, very high quality, and we put great care in doing it. When to drink it? What's the occasion? I would say this is not a champagne that needs food. It's very capable of dealing with food, but that's a great friend for aperitif. You have it on its own. I'm not having any food with this, but actually I think it tastes great. If you wanted to have it with food, like all our champagnes are built to be capable of dealing with food. The obvious pairing would be on desserts with flavors that resemble what you have in your glass. So this is going to be flavors like citrus, like the red fruits, exactly what I talked about. So a tart of that would work really well. And if you want to be a little bit more adventurous, we find this goes great with Asian food, or certainly I find this goes great with Asian food and sushis and sashimis. That work great. Salmon sashimi work really well with that. Other questions that we've had before is around how long you can keep it in your cellar. If you go for a very long aging in the rosé, you will gain in structure and you lose fruit. So that's something you need to be mindful of if you wish to age your rosé. So half bottles, I would say, a year, maybe 2. If you want to keep it fresh, that's possibly as far as you want to go. Bottles 2, 3, that should absolutely be fine. Magnums and Jerograms, you can go for more. Just be mindful, longer you keep, above the recommendation I gave you, you're going to lose a little bit of fruit. Look, thank you thank you all so much to take the time to have listened to us today. I hope that's giving you a welcome break if you're in lockdown. Take care of you, take care of loved ones. I know this is a tricky time for everybody. Please do all you can to fight that bloody virus. Provide the support. Just staying at home sounds like the best plan for everyone. And if you can provide some help to the healthcare professionals and all others that are in the front line, then that's great. Thank you so much. Santé, enjoy your weekend, and hopefully see you soon. Bye bye.